Stop worrying. That's when life starts working. Worry is like trying to walk forward while staring backward. It shackles the mind, tightens the body, and clouds the soul. When we worry, we are projecting ourselves into a future that doesn't yet exist. One crafted not from truth, but from fear. And in doing so, we rob the present moment of its power, the only place where life is truly lived and where transformation actually happens. Worry pretends to be useful. It masquerades as responsibility, care, and planning. But in reality, it is resistance. Resistance to what is. Resistance to what might be. Resistance to our lack of control. It is like standing in a river, trying to stop the flow with your bare hands. You exhaust yourself and change nothing. Yet the moment you release that tension, the moment you stop fighting the current, you begin to move with the river. You begin to understand that life was never meant to be forced. It was meant to be aligned with. In stillness there is wisdom. In silence there is clarity. When we let go of worry, we allow ourselves to listen. Not just with our ears, but with our whole being. We begin to feel the deeper rhythm underneath the surface noise. Life is not chaotic. It only seems that way when viewed through the lens of a restless mind. When you let go of your internal struggle, the external world starts to reflect a new order. That's when life starts working. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. To worry is to forget. To forget who you are. To forget what you're made of. Each of us carries within the same breath that moves the trees and stirs the oceans. The same intelligence that causes the sun to rise and the stars to burn is not outside of us. It animates us, so why should we doubt the process of our life? Why do we believe that somehow we are the exception to the harmony of existence? Worry feeds on disconnection. It grows in the space between who we think we are and who we really are. It grows when we place our sense of self in things that are always shifting. Our job, our relationships, our reputation, our success. But all of these are impermanent. If you attach your peace to what changes, your peace will be as unstable as the seasons. True peace arises when you anchor yourself in what does not move. Your breath, your presence, your awareness. Look at nature. A tree does not worry whether it will grow. It simply reaches. The moon does not question its reflection in the water. The wind does not apologize for its strength or its stillness. All of nature exists in a deep, unshakable trust. That same trust lives in you. If you are quiet enough to feel it, but you must create the space for it. And worry fills that space with noise, with stories, with expectations. Let go of those stories. Let go of the need to control outcomes. That is when clarity returns. You don't need to know how everything will unfold. You just need to take the next step with presence. One step at a time, one breath at a time. When you do this, you are no longer creating from fear. You are creating from alignment. And when you are aligned, you are powerful. Because you are no longer working against life. You are allowing life to work through you. People often ask, how do I stop worrying? And the answer is not found in doing more, but in doing less, in being. In recognizing the tension in your body, the spinning in your mind, and choosing not to feed it. It is not a fight, it is a release. It is an exhale. It is a returning to yourself again and again until that becomes your natural state. Until peace is no longer something you chase, but something you remember. You cannot control what happens outside you, but you can choose how you meet it. Worry says, I must be prepared for all the worst possibilities. Presence says, I will meet what comes with calm and clarity. One is rooted in fear, the other in power. Choose power. Trust does not mean passivity. It does not mean you sit and do nothing. It means you act without attachment. You give your best with an open heart. You speak with truth. You move with intention, but you do not cling to results. You do not let the outcome determine your inner state. That is freedom. So stop worrying. Not because everything is perfect, but because worry blocks you from seeing what is already working. Life has been quietly guiding you all along. There is a wisdom operating underneath the surface that doesn't need your panic to function. In fact, it functions best when you surrender. There is a force within you that knows how to move, how to wait, how to act. But you must get out of your own way. And to do that, you must stop feeding the mind stories that have never served you. You must learn the art of letting go, of trusting your breath, of trusting the now. When you do, Life begins to unfold in ways you could not have planned. The right people arrive. The right timing reveals itself. What felt blocked begins to open. Not because you pushed harder, but because you allowed yourself to become still enough to receive what was always waiting. This is not weakness, this is strength. Quiet strength, rooted strength. The kind that comes not from fighting but from flowing. And in that flow, life starts working not as something you must chase, but as something you are finally allowing. The moment you let go of worry, something profound happens. You begin to see reality as it is, not as your fears have painted it. Worry is like looking through a cracked mirror. Everything appears distorted. Your possibilities, your worth, your future. But clarity comes when you stop projecting your fears outward and start looking inward. Inside there is stillness. Inside there is space. That's where life starts to breathe again. Most people have been taught to equate worry with care. They believe that if they're not worrying, they're not being responsible. But there is a vast difference between concern that moves you to conscious action and worry that paralyzes your spirit. Concern arises from awareness. It says, this needs my attention. Worry arises from fear. It says, this will destroy me. One grounds you, the other consumes you. The art of living is learning to tell the difference. When you stop worrying, you become available. Available to inspiration, to creative solutions, to intuitive knowing. You become like water, soft yet strong, still yet flowing, reflective yet deep. There is a reason why the masters speak of water so often. It yields and yet nothing can break it. It moves around obstacles without resistance. It carries life effortlessly. That is what happens to the human spirit when it stops resisting the moment through worry. It becomes fluid, capable and clear. This isn't about denying difficulty or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing how you respond when difficulty arises. Worry is like watering weeds. The more attention you give it, the more it spreads. Your mind starts to chase one fearful thought after another, each one creating more tension in the body. But you can interrupt that cycle. You can say, no, I will not follow this thought. I will come back to my breath. That one small act, returning to the breath, can save your day. Eventually it can save your life. So many people are waiting for life to change before they let go of their anxiety. But the secret is this: life starts changing when you let go. That's when the energy shifts. That's when you begin to operate from a higher state of being. Peace is not a reward for when the storm passes. Peace is the power that carries you through the storm. You are not here to micromanage the universe. You are not here to obsess over every detail, fearing what may go wrong. You are here to trust the intelligence that placed you in this world and gave you breath without your asking. That same intelligence knows how to lead you, but it cannot get through the noise of constant worry. You must quiet yourself long enough to listen. And when you listen, life speaks. It speaks through intuition, a sense that arises without logic, yet feels undeniably right. It speaks through synchronicity, moments where things align in ways you could never have orchestrated. It speaks through clarity, the sudden knowing of the next step without needing to see the whole path. These are not accidents, they are the natural result of releasing resistance. But we live in a culture that prizes control. We are taught to always plan ahead, solve every problem before it happens, and predict every outcome. But real life isn't predictable. It's not linear, it is dynamic. It grows and shifts. And the more we try to lock it down through worry, the more frustrated we become. Freedom comes when we embrace the mystery, when we stop needing to know how everything will turn out. That's when we find our flow. Flow is not passive, it is deeply engaged. But it is engaged with presence, not panic. When you are in flow, you are not distracted by 100 fears. You are simply here, focused, calm, aware. And from that state, your actions become effective. You don't waste energy on doubt. You don't fight battles that only exist in your imagination. You act from clarity, and that makes all the difference. Worry is always based in a future that doesn't yet exist. It's like watching a movie in your mind where everything goes wrong. And the more you watch, the more you believe it's real. But it's not. The only thing that is real is this moment, right now. And right now you have a choice. You can contract, or you can expand. You can worry, or you can breathe. One leads to suffering, the other leads to peace. It's not about ignoring challenges. It's about facing them from a place of strength. instead of fear. When you stop worrying, you stop weakening yourself. You stop draining your energy on problems that may never happen. You start gathering your power in the now. And when you live from that state, your presence alone becomes a force. You don't need to push so hard. Your clarity does the work. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life happen not when you are striving, but when you are surrendered. Have you ever noticed how solutions appear when you stop thinking so hard? How the right words come when you stop trying to be perfect? How the right door opens the moment you stop banging on all the wrong ones? This is not coincidence. This is the law of life. It begins to work when you stop interfering. There is a wisdom in non-doing, in stepping back, in allowing the process to unfold. This does not mean you give up. It means you give over to something deeper, something wiser than the grasping mind. That kind of surrender is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is choosing trust over tension, presence over panic, stillness over struggle. And in that stillness, you begin to reconnect with yourself, with life, with the present moment. And slowly the worry that once gripped your chest starts to loosen. The tightness in your mind begins to soften. You start to realize that what you were so afraid of was never as real as it seemed. Most of what we fear never comes to pass. And even when it does, we are more resilient than we think. You are not meant to live in a state of constant inner alarm. That is not aliveness, that is survival. And you were not born to merely survive. You were born to live, to breathe deeply, to laugh freely, to love fully. But worry robs you of all of that. It whispers that you are never safe, never ready, never enough. But you are. You always have been. The peace you seek is not somewhere far off. It is not waiting at the end of a perfect plan. It is not hidden behind the right circumstances. It is here, right now, underneath the noise, underneath the stories, underneath the fear. It is the stillness at your core that never left you. You simply need to remember it. So ask yourself, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? Who would I be without this worry? And let that question guide you, not to recklessness, but to freedom, not to denial, but to power, real power. The kind that comes not from controlling everything, but from trusting that you don't have to. You don't need every answer right now. You don't need to predict every step. You just need to take the one in front of you with courage. And then the next, and then the next. Life has a way of unfolding for those who show up fully without needing to know how it all ends. So let go of the illusion that worry is protecting you. It's not. It's limiting you. It's weighing you down. And you don't have to carry it anymore. Lay it down. Breathe. Trust. Life knows what it's doing, and the moment you stop worrying is the moment you begin to live fully, openly, freely. That's when life starts working. Not because you forced it to, but because you finally let it. There's something subtle, yet incredibly powerful, that happens when you begin to live without clinging to imagined fears. Life, which once felt like a tight hallway of pressure and deadlines, begins to widen. New possibilities appear, not because they were created at that moment, but because your vision has finally cleared enough to see them. Worry narrows your awareness. It makes you focus only on what could go wrong. But freedom expands your sight. And in that expanded view, you recognize that life was never against you. It was always responding to your inner state. The mistake many make is believing that their external circumstances must improve before they can feel peace. But it is peace that brings clarity, not the other way around. You must become what you seek. If you desire order, you must embody calm. If you desire answers, you must dwell in stillness. If you desire progress, you must trust the process. Worry interrupts all of that. It's like noise pollution for the soul. It drowns out the signals of wisdom that are always being sent to you through intuition, through emotion, through subtle synchronicity. That guidance isn't loud. It doesn't compete for your attention. It simply waits for you to become quiet enough to hear it. Most of the world is moving too fast to notice the invisible wisdom of life. People rush from one thought to the next, one obligation to the next, never stopping to ask, is this even the direction I want to go? Worry creates that constant motion. It makes you feel that if you're not always doing something, fixing something, solving something, then everything will fall apart. But often, the thing you truly need is not more action. It is a deeper awareness. You need to step back and look at the whole canvas, not just the one spot you've been obsessively painting. There is a great simplicity to life when it is not complicated by fear. That's not to say challenges disappear. They don't. But your approach to them becomes radically different. Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of panicking, you pause. Instead of spinning stories about all the worst-case scenarios, you ask, what is this moment really asking of me? And more often than not, it's asking for presence. Just presence, just honesty, just attention. Worry makes everything feel so much heavier than it actually is. It adds weight to even the smallest decisions, turning them into imagined catastrophes. But when you strip away the panic, the choices become simple again, clear, doable. There is nothing spiritual about constantly bracing for disaster. That is not preparation. It is punishment. To live that way is to continually suffer what hasn't even happened. It is to sacrifice your joy for the illusion of control. But you were not designed to carry tomorrow's burdens today. Each day has enough of its own energy. The question is not, how can I prepare for every possible failure? The real question is, can I meet today's task with full presence and trust that tomorrow will take care of itself? You see, life responds not to your panic, but to your energy. When you radiate trust, life brings more things that affirm that trust. When you radiate worry, life reflects that chaos right back to you. It's not punishment, it's resonance. You attract what you chronically dwell on, not because you deserve it, but because you are tuned into that frequency. You cannot expect clarity while sending out signals of confusion. You cannot receive peace while obsessing over fear. You have to become the condition you want to live in. Worry is like trying to read a book with your hands shaking. No matter how important the message, you'll never grasp it fully. But when you steady yourself, when you still the tremble inside, suddenly the message becomes clear. The signs that seemed invisible are now obvious. The answers that felt unreachable now come with ease. They were always there. You were just too clouded to notice. You are not helpless. You are not a victim of circumstance. And most importantly, you are not your thoughts. Worrying thoughts may visit you, but you do not have to invite them in for tea. You are the awareness behind those thoughts. You are the observer, and once you remember that, you reclaim your power. You become the master of your focus. And focus, not force, is what shapes reality. When you stop worrying, what you're really doing is practicing faith. Not blind belief, but deep, embodied faith in the unseen intelligence that sustains all life. Think of it, your heart beats without your permission. Your lungs breathe without your effort. The sun rises each morning without your involvement. What makes you think that your life is any less supported? What makes you believe that your journey must be carried on your back alone? Surrender is not the abandonment of responsibility. It is the release of unnecessary tension. It is the understanding that you are a co-creator, not a controller. You act, yes. You move, yes. But you do so with lightness, not with clenched fists and a worried mind. You do so with the faith that there is something greater than your own calculations guiding the rhythm of your days. Imagine walking through your life with a quiet confidence, no longer gripped by every unexpected turn. Imagine trusting yourself so deeply that even if plans change, even if the path shifts, you know how to adapt without fear. That is what it means to be free of worry. It does not mean nothing will challenge you. It means that no challenge will define you. You must ask yourself, what is this worry costing me? Your sleep, your joy, your presence with loved ones, your creativity, your clarity. The price is always too high, and the return on worry is always zero. You gain nothing by playing out negative scenarios over and over again, but you gain everything by learning to be still. You gain insight, you gain peace, you gain your life back. When you stop worrying, you allow space for miracles, because you're no longer too focused on controlling life to let life surprise you. And it will surprise you again and again if you give it room to breathe. The right opportunity will come when you are calm enough to recognize it. The right solution will appear when you are grounded enough to receive it. And the right energy will flow through you when you are no longer blocked by fear. Life doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be open. It needs you to be available. And worry closes you off from that availability. It contracts your energy. But your natural state, your true state, is expansion. It is lightness. It is trust. Not the naive kind, but the kind that says, I know who I am. I know what I carry. And I know that I will meet whatever comes with wisdom and grace. Everything you've ever overcome, you overcame not because you worried harder, but because you showed up. Because you adapted, because you allowed something deeper in you to rise to the occasion. Let that same strength guide you now. You don't need to map every detail of the future to move forward. You just need to remember that you've done this before. You faced uncertainty before, and you're still here. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are simply being invited to trust again, to soften again, to breathe again. Worry might knock at your door, but you don't have to answer. You can let it pass like a cloud in the sky, while you remain rooted like the mountain. You can let life move through you, while you stay anchored in the now. It is in this state, when you've let go of resistance, that life begins to show its hand. You start to notice that things work themselves out without your frantic effort. You begin to feel held by something vast and intelligent. And that feeling, that quiet sense of alignment, is worth more than all the hours spent in mental struggle. So if the mind races, let it. Don't chase it. Return to your breath. If fear creeps in, observe it. Don't feed it. Come back to stillness. Again and again you return, until peace becomes not just a momentary refuge, but a natural rhythm. That rhythm is your true nature. That rhythm is where life begins to flow. Stop worrying, not because nothing matters, but because everything does. And when everything matters, you must protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. When you are free from worry, your energy becomes focused, sharp, magnetic. You begin to attract rather than chase. You begin to lead rather than react. And most importantly, you begin to be without condition, without fear, without apology. That is where life works best. That is where you were always meant to live. The rhythm of your life becomes harmonious when you are no longer trying to force it into a shape that pleases your fears. Worry wants to predict the future because it's afraid of surprise. It wants guarantees because it's afraid of uncertainty. But life is not a machine. It is not a checklist to control. It is more like a piece of music meant to be felt, to be interpreted in the moment, to be danced with. And just like music, its beauty is found in the spaces between the notes, in the pauses, in the silences. Worry clutters those silences with noise. But when you stop, truly stop, the deeper melody of life becomes audible. There is a deeper current beneath the surface of all your busy thoughts. You might call it awareness, or presence, or stillness. It is always there. It doesn't come and go like emotions. It simply is. And when you stop worrying, you allow yourself to sink into that current. You don't have to strive to find peace. You simply stop moving away from it. Peace was always there, beneath the frantic paddling, beneath the mental storms, beneath the desperate search for control. Letting go is not a task. It is an undoing, a relaxing into what already is. How many moments of joy have been stolen because your mind was somewhere else, imagining what could go wrong? How many mornings did you wake up with a day full of promise, only to spend it gripping imaginary problems with a clenched mind? How many opportunities passed by unnoticed because you were too busy preparing for problems that never came? This is the toll of worry. It makes you miss your own life, not because your life isn't full of beauty, but because your attention was hijacked by fear. But it doesn't have to be this way. The invitation is always open to return. No matter how many years you've lived in anxiety, no matter how long you've been conditioned to expect the worst, you can return to yourself. You can begin again. You can practice trusting the moment. You can begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, life doesn't have to be a constant battle. Maybe it can be a conversation. Maybe it can be a dance. Maybe the future doesn't need to be controlled. Maybe it simply needs to be met. Start by noticing when the spiral begins, noticing when the chest tightens, when the thoughts start racing, when your breath becomes shallow. Don't judge it. Don't try to fight it. Just notice it. Say silently, here it is again. That's the beginning of mastery. That awareness, that task, is what gives you the power to choose a different path, to take a breath, to soften your grip, to return to this moment. You are not trying to get rid of thoughts. You are learning not to obey them. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every fear deserves your loyalty. The mind is a storyteller. It spins tales out of old pain, out of inherited beliefs, out of societal fear. But you are not those stories. You are the one who hears them. And that distinction changes everything. When you stop believing the fearful thoughts, you stop feeding them. And when you stop feeding them, they begin to fade. They might return again and again. But your relationship to them is different now. You become the calm in the middle of the storm. The storm may rage, but you no longer become it. That's the power of non-worry. Not that life becomes perfect, but that you no longer need perfection to feel peace. And peace is not passive. It is a living energy. It sharpens your vision. It strengthens your decisions. It brings a kind of quiet strength that allows you to move through life with intention rather than reaction. When you stop worrying, you can finally hear your own wisdom. You begin to remember what you truly want, not what your fears told you to want. You start living with clarity. You say yes with your whole being. You say no without guilt. You move with purpose. Worry will tell you that you need it to be safe, that if you stop worrying, you'll be caught off guard. But look at your life. Has worry ever truly kept you safe? Or has it only made you tired, anxious, and less able to deal with challenges when they actually arise? What you need is not more mental rehearsal of disaster. What you need is the capacity to meet life as it is, not as your fear imagines it. And that capacity is found in stillness, in presence, in breath, in the quiet confidence that no matter what comes, you will respond, you will adapt, you will rise. You always have. There is an intelligence in the body, in the breath, in the heart, that knows how to navigate life far better than worry ever could. But you must create space for that intelligence to emerge. You must stop crowding your inner world with panic and noise. The moment you step aside, it steps forward. It is not loud. It is not dramatic, but it is clear, and it will guide you if you let it. You must understand that every act of worry is an act of mistrust, not just of the future, but of yourself. It is you saying, I don't believe I'll know what to do when the time comes. But that belief is false. You will know because you have known. Look back at your life. You've survived so much already. You've navigated the unknown many times, and you did not do it through worry. You did it through strength, instinct, and the support of a greater energy moving through you. Let go of the illusion that you must hold the entire world on your shoulders. Let go of the lie that says if you're not worrying, you're not paying attention. The most awake people in the world are not the most anxious. They are the most present. They are the ones who walk with awareness, who act with compassion, who rest in their center even when the world around them is chaotic. That's not because their lives are easy. It's because their minds are quiet. When your mind is quiet, the heart opens. When the heart opens, courage flows. When courage flows, action becomes simple. And when action is simple, life becomes graceful. That is the chain reaction that begins when you stop worrying. It's not about arriving at some perfect place where you never feel doubt again. Doubt will arise. Fear will whisper. Worry will knock, but you no longer need to follow them. You've seen what lies beyond them. You've tasted the stillness. You've felt the power of non-resistance. You've remembered who you are beneath the noise. And from that place, you begin to live. Not reactively, not fearfully, but consciously. You live from the inside out, rather than from the outside in. You are no longer pulled by every passing fear or conditioned belief. You are grounded in something deeper. That is freedom. That is power. That is what life was trying to show you all along. So when the mind races, come back. When fear visits, come back. When the world tries to pull you into panic, come back. Again and again, that is the path. That is the practice. That is how life begins to work. Not when you control it, but when you align with it. And alignment doesn't require effort. It requires trust. It requires stillness. It requires listening. You don't need to force life to support you. You simply need to stop resisting the support that is already there. Let that be your practice, not the elimination of all fear, but the refusal to obey it, not the suppression of thought, but the remembrance that you are more than your thoughts, not the conquest of life, but the surrender to its wisdom. Because when you stop worrying, you don't become careless, you become conscious, you don't become inactive, you become intentional, you don't lose your grip. You discover your center, and from that center, all things are possible. You might wonder how to start this process, especially if worry has been your constant companion for years, maybe decades. The first step is always the simplest: to notice without judgment. When the familiar tide of anxious thoughts rises, instead of fighting it or trying to push it away, simply observe it. Imagine you are watching a wave on the ocean. It comes in, it crashes, and it recedes. You do not have to drown in the wave. You do not have to cling to it. You are the ocean itself, vast and steady beneath the surface. This act of observation is not passive. It is the beginning of power. As you observe, you begin to separate your identity from your worry. You begin to understand that worry is just a thought pattern, a habit of mind, not your true self. And that awareness creates space, a space where you can choose differently. In that space, breathe deeply. Let your breath be the anchor that holds you steady. When anxiety rushes in, grounding yourself through the breath reminds your nervous system that it is safe to relax. You do not have to be in constant fight or flight mode. The breath whispers that calmness is available, always, if only you will return to it. From that calm place, begin to ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Not the surface worry about money, relationships, or health, but the deeper fear beneath it all. Often it is a fear of loss, a fear of not being enough, a fear of uncertainty. These fears are universal, but they are also illusions. They come from stories you've been told or have told yourself over and over. But none of these fears define your essence. You are more than your fears. You are the presence in which they arise. Once you begin to face those fears with gentleness rather than resistance, their power diminishes. You begin to see that they are not monsters to fight, but shadows to understand. This understanding does not happen overnight. It happens through persistent practice. Each time worry arrives, you don't deny it or indulge it. You meet it with curiosity and kindness. You say, I see you, but I am not afraid of you. And slowly those shadows lose their grip. Alongside this inner work, practice surrender to what is. Surrender is often misunderstood as giving up, but it is actually the bravest thing you can do. It means you stop struggling against reality. You stop resisting the moment just because it's uncomfortable or not what you hoped for. You accept what is without approval or condemnation. You say yes to life's flow, even when it feels unpredictable. This surrender frees up enormous energy that worry would have consumed. When you stop fighting, you stop exhausting yourself. When you stop resisting, you start to flow. You find that solutions often come, not through force, but through patience and openness. Doors open not because you pushed harder, but because you were ready to walk through, when the time was right. Trust is the foundation of this process. Not trust in a vague future, but trust in your ability to navigate life's challenges as they arise. Trust in the intelligence that flows through you. Trust in the unseen forces that are always supporting you, even when you don't see evidence of it yet. This trust builds resilience. It builds peace. It builds a quiet confidence that no matter what happens, you will be okay. To build that trust, cultivate gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to worry. When you focus on what you have, rather than what you lack, your mindset shifts. You begin to notice the abundance already present in your life. You start to see the small miracles, sunlight filtering through trees, the kind word from a stranger, the steady beating of your heart that reassure you life is on your side. Incorporate daily practices that nurture presence and calm. Meditation, prayer, journaling, walking in nature. These are not just rituals. They are the roots of a grounded, worry-free life. They remind you of your connection to something greater than yourself. They remind you that you are not alone. They remind you that peace is available now, not in some distant future. Be patient with yourself. Old habits die hard, and the habit of worry is deeply ingrained in many of us. There will be days when the mind races, when fear seems louder than ever. That is natural. The key is not perfection, but persistence. Each time you return to calm, each time you choose trust over fear, you strengthen your capacity to live fully. Remember that your worth is not determined by external circumstances or by how well you manage your fears. You are inherently worthy, just as you are. This is not something you have to earn. It is a truth to be remembered. When you remember your worth, worry loses much of its fuel, because much worry is rooted in a feeling of not being enough. But you are enough. You have always been enough. Let go of the illusion that your life must be perfect to be happy. Life is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes painful, but it is also beautiful, rich, and full of opportunity. Worry tries to protect you by anticipating pain, but it also blocks you from experiencing joy. When you stop worrying, you open yourself to the full spectrum of life, its ups and downs, its surprises and certainties. Cultivate a mindset of curiosity. Instead of fearing what the future holds, approach it like a child exploring a new world. Ask questions, be open to learning, be willing to be surprised. This attitude shifts your energy from resistance to exploration. It invites new possibilities to appear because your mind is no longer closed tight by fear. Practice kindness toward yourself and others. Worry can isolate because it turns your attention inward in a way that breeds anxiety and self-criticism. When you choose kindness, you open your heart. You create connection. Connection is a powerful remedy for worry, because it reminds you that you are supported. You do not have to carry your burdens alone. Lean on your community. Share your fears with trusted friends or mentors. Sometimes simply speaking your worries out loud reduces their power. Others can offer perspective, encouragement, and support that you might not see on your own. Remember that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Find meaning in your challenges. Often, worry stems from a sense that difficulties are random or meaningless. But every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every obstacle contains a lesson. When you look for the meaning in your experiences, you transform hardship into a teacher. This shift gives you a sense of purpose that can overshadow worry. Finally, remind yourself daily that life is a process, not a problem to be solved. The goal is not to eliminate uncertainty or discomfort. That is impossible. The goal is to build a relationship with uncertainty that is based on trust and presence rather than fear. When you do this, you begin to live with grace. You begin to dance with life rather than struggle against it. So take a moment now. Breathe deeply. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the air entering your lungs. Feel the steady rhythm of your heart. Know that in this very moment, you are alive and safe. You are capable and strong. You are enough. And as you carry this knowing with you, life will begin to work. Not because you've forced it, but because you've allowed it. Because you've stopped worrying. As you continue down this path, you realize that worry is really just a habit of the mind, a way it has learned to protect you, albeit in a misguided fashion. It's like a well-meaning but overzealous guardian who sounds the alarm at every small noise. The mind's job is to keep you safe. Yes, but worry is often the mind's lazy shortcut, anticipating danger before it's even real, rehearsing worst-case scenarios again and again, exhausting your energy without moving you closer to peace or solution. Understanding this shifts your perspective. Worry isn't some permanent state of being. It's a pattern you can gently unwind. One of the most profound lessons in this journey is learning to trust in the natural intelligence of life itself. Life, despite its chaos and unpredictability, has a rhythm and flow that is deeply wise. It moves in cycles of growth, rest, challenge, and renewal. When you stop fighting against this flow, when you stop worrying about the what-ifs and the maybes, you begin to align with life's greater intelligence. This alignment doesn't mean life becomes perfect or predictable. It means you develop a profound sense of harmony with its ever-changing nature. Think about a river flowing downstream. It doesn't resist the bends or obstacles it encounters. Instead, it adapts, flowing around rocks, carving new paths when necessary, always moving forward. When you stop worrying, you become like that river. You find your own flow, your own path through whatever challenges arise. You learn to trust that even when the path changes, life still carries you forward. And as you trust more, something beautiful happens. You start to see that your worries are often about things you cannot control. Yet you have the power to control your response to those things. This distinction is crucial. You cannot control the future or other people's actions, but you can control your attitude, your choices, and your mindset. When you accept this, your energy shifts from frustration to empowerment. Worry robs you of your creative power. When your mind is clouded with anxious thoughts, it's difficult to see options, to innovate, to take inspired action. But when you let go of worry, clarity emerges. You see the situation as it truly is, not colored by fear or distorted by what-ifs. Clarity opens the door to effective decision-making. You start to act not out of desperation or panic, but from a place of calm wisdom. This calm wisdom is the essence of mastery. It is the secret that the most successful, peaceful, and fulfilled people know. Life isn't about eliminating stress or problems. It's about learning to dance with them without losing your center. It's about mastering your inner state, no matter what external circumstances arise. To cultivate this mastery, develop rituals that reconnect you to your inner calm. It might be a morning meditation, a walk in nature, journaling your thoughts, or simply sitting quietly and observing your breath. These moments of pause build resilience and remind you that peace is your natural state beneath the surface noise. Another important step is to practice gratitude regularly. Gratitude rewires your brain to notice what's good rather than what's missing. When you're grateful, your heart opens, your perspective shifts, and worry begins to lose its grip. Even on difficult days, there are things to appreciate: a kind gesture, a beautiful sunset, the breath moving in and out. Gratitude is the light that dissolves the shadows of fear. Sometimes worry feels so overwhelming because you are trying to carry too much alone. It's important to remember that you are part of a larger whole. You are connected to others, to the earth, and to the flow of life itself. Reach out when you need support. Share your feelings with trusted friends or mentors. Connection nurtures your spirit and reminds you that you are not isolated in your struggles. Fear thrives in isolation and silence, but it loses power in the light of shared experience and understanding. You will be surprised how many people relate to your worries and how much strength you can gain from mutual support. Remember also to be kind to yourself. Worry can often come with self-judgment. I shouldn't feel this way. I'm weak for being anxious. This harsh inner voice only deepens the cycle. Replace judgment with compassion. Speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Acknowledge that worry is part of being human, but also affirm your capacity to rise above it. The process of letting go of worry is not a one-time event, but a lifelong practice. Each day you will have opportunities to choose peace over panic. Each moment offers a chance to return to your center, and over time these choices build upon each other, creating a foundation of calm that carries you through life's inevitable storms. You will notice that your relationships improve as well. When you are less consumed by worry, you become more present with others. You listen more deeply, respond more thoughtfully, and love more freely. Your calmness becomes a gift not just to yourself, but to everyone around you. Life's mysteries don't disappear when you stop worrying, but your relationship with those mysteries changes. Instead of feeling threatened by uncertainty, you become curious. Instead of resisting change, you embrace it as a natural part of growth. This openness transforms your experience. Life becomes less about surviving and more about thriving. You may still face challenges, illness, loss, disappointment. These are part of the human condition. But worry no longer controls how you meet them. Instead, you meet them with courage and grace, grounded in the deep knowing that you can handle whatever comes, because you have learned to trust life and yourself. In this way, stopping worry is an act of liberation. It frees your mind from chains you never needed to wear. It frees your heart to feel joy and love more fully. It frees your spirit to soar beyond fear. As Master Shi Hang Yi teaches, life starts working when you stop worrying, because you step out of resistance and into flow. You stop battling against what is and begin cooperating with life's wisdom. You discover that the universe is not an adversary but a partner, that your true strength lies not in control but in surrender, not in fear but in trust. The journey to stop worrying and start living is a journey back to yourself. It is a rediscovery of your inherent peace, your infinite capacity for love, and your unshakable strength. It is a calling to wake up from the nightmare of fear and step into the reality of presence. This is not a destination to reach, but a way of being, to cultivate every day. Each breath, each moment offers the chance to choose peace, to choose trust, to choose life. So when worry knocks again, greet it with kindness, breathe through it, and remember you are the calm beneath the storm, the river that flows around every obstacle, the light that shines through the darkest clouds. In stopping your worry, you do not stop your life. You start it. And that life, with all its mystery and beauty, is waiting for you now. When you stop worrying, you reclaim your power and step fully into the flow of life. Worry no longer drains your energy or clouds your vision. Instead, you embrace each moment with trust, courage, and presence. Life begins to work not because the challenges disappear, but because your relationship to them transforms. You become the calm in the storm, the steady river carving its path, and the light that shines through uncertainty. This is your true nature, peaceful, resilient, and deeply connected to the wisdom of the universe. So let go of worry, breathe deeply, and open yourself to the abundant, vibrant life that is waiting for you right now.